Good afternoon, guys. Mike here with Wilderness Warriors and Woodsman's Gear on YouTube. Today I'm going to be showing you a down under quilt. It is a dual layer system from some DIY stuff using 2 down quilt throws from Costco. This thing should be good to around the 30-degree mark depending on what type of base layers that you're sleeping in. Fairly compact, not ultra lightweight in that I've got 2 to show you, and this one is the slightly lighter one at 1 pound, 15 3/8 ounce or 15 1/4 ounce, something like that, and the other one is 2 pounds 1 3/8 ounce, I believe. And I'll go over the differences in just a minute. But first thing I'm going to do is set it up on the hammock. These are full length under quilts, and they have a fairly simple attachment system. Say simple as I'm sitting here fumbling with it. Just want to make sure that my hook is in the right direction. And all I'm using for hooks on this is micro S-beaners from the keychains from Night Eyes. I picked up a couple of keychains, and it's like $4 or something like that, and you get 6 or 8 of the plastic S-beaners in various different colors. The colors seems to help a little bit as well for what I'm looking at doing here. I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot which way you hook them on. And so I initially just set it up inside the hammock and then pop it to the outside and then slide my hammock over in it. Again, these are full-size quilts, full length. The original measurements on the quilt throws are 60 inches wide by 70 inches long. And what I have done on these on this particular one, let me bring the camera in here and show you a little closer. This setup is slightly different in that it has a quilted grid pattern originally at 5 inches, and so what I did was, because they were 60 inches wide, and most underquilts are narrower than that. Most underquilts are around the 48 inches mark. Some of them are actually down into the 40s. I prefer one that's larger, that's going to come up all the way around me. So that's how I made these. But I took the outside quilt, the main quilt that has all the suspension and everything on it, and I eliminated 2 rows. And so basically I cut the length stitching in between the boxes and then shook all the down to those outside, because I wanted to leave the quilted here on this so everything stays in place. And then I sewed 2 rows back across it and separated, and then cut in between them. So I basically wound up with 2 rows, or almost 2 full rows of this spare left over that I saved the down for a different project on. So now we're down to 50 inches, and then I sewed that fabric over on itself. This is actually the finished edge. It's got a little bead here, and then used that as the channel for the suspension. And then on this side over here, this is the one that I actually sewed it back over, and then that's not a bead, that's actually the rollover where I sewed it. And so created the channel on that side. On the ends on this one, I actually used grosgrain and sewed a channel on the ends. The length is still 70 inches. And then what I did on the inside one is, it is a full-sized quilt, and all I did was basically start from the center and work my way out, attaching the little button snaps. And I use clear on these so you don't really see them. And then this thing just snaps in. And on this particular model, I do every other one down the sides, and then on the ends is about every in between 1.5. So I started directly in the center and then just evenly spaced it out. And all you want to do is be able to create enough that it kind of bunches up, so when you cinch in your ends, and it's always going to kind of create little gaps. What I was looking for was to keep the inner down quilt fluffy and puffed up in there, so it will fill those gaps and keep any air from getting in. And then just because I didn't want to cut anything, I just took that, did my button snaps further down where it wound up being centered on the outside, and then you just fold those over to the inside. So the benefit to this system is that it's relatively cheap. It's not super heavy, and it's certainly lighter than a lot of other synthetic type stuff that you would use if you were trying to use a sleeping bag or something like that. It's going to be lighter than that. Down insulates well. You get quite a bit of loft with this setup. And the cool thing is that the inner one is completely removable. You just unsnap it, and then you have an outer shell that will work down to 55 degrees, and then you throw the inner shell in and you should be good down to around 30 degrees. Again, that is going to be dependent on how cold or hot of a sleeper that you are and what type of clothes that you're using to actually sleep in. I always sleep in a thin thermal layer, base layer. But then if it gets really cold, I will, add another pair of pants or something like that, and then throw on a puffy jacket of some form, whether it's synthetic or down. I've got a couple of each that I carry when it's colder weather. And then there are other things too. If you wanted to add something like a sock to the outside, not only is that going to protect your down under quilt, but it's going to provide a wind barrier that will probably add another 5 or so degrees to the abilities of the quilt. So definitely a benefit in that. Also, you can get them, Dutch sells them where you've got a full length bug net on top and sock material. I think it's like argon 67 or something like that on the bottom for that wind barrier. And then he's also got them where there's just a small section of net down by your head, and the whole thing is a solid wall sock to block wind and to help retain heat. So hammocks are a personal thing. It's whatever you feel that you like. But on this particular design, it all stuffs into one of the original down Costco stuff sacks. And again, right around the 2-pound mark, and that is with the suspension itself. And you should be good to go for around 30 degrees with proper clothing. Cinch this one up and show you this end, and then the adjustments for the length on here are pretty much like every other, or most every other under quilt out there that's made, and that I just used line locks here that are adjustable. And you want it further this way, you pull it, adjust it, it automatically locks. You just want to get it kind of balanced on both sides, and you're probably going to have to fiddle with it a little bit while you're inside the hammock, or maybe while you've got somebody else in there laying how you would lay in the hammock in order to get it just right. But that will adjust the length on where it's positioned on the hammock, one side or the other. Same thing down at the other end, and how tight you want it pulled up is all up to you and personal preference. But again, down Costco quilt. This is the first one that I made. I'm going to show another one here in just a minute, but I'm going to sell the first 2, and then I'm making 3 others for my family. So I've got one that's going to be gray like this that I'm going to be keeping, and then I've got a purple one for my wife and a blue one for my daughter. So there you go. This one I think I'm going to be selling for around, I'd say around $90. There's $40 in quilts here. They're $20 each in the store, and I probably got another $15, $20 worth of gear. So the rest of that is labor, and I can tell you that as a learning experience, that does not cover the labor that I've got into it for sure. But again, I like doing it in this style in that you get 2 layers. So you get a lightweight one for slightly cool weather in you know, late spring, early fall, and you can use the exact same quilt going on into winter. And also these are a great combination to go if you've already got another down quilt that might have been like a 40 or 50 degree quilt. You know, you layer the things up and then that can take you all the way down to around 0. So it's up to you, but very simple. And if you wanted to make it yourself, you can see what I've done here as far as the ends go and all, and relatively easy to do. The button snaps, you got to order the clear ones, but you can pretty much go to the store. I buy some of the local stuff at Joann's Fabrics. They have the crimping tool for them, and then they sell some of the stuff in some other colors, you know, different color buttons. And I have found that Hobby Lobby sells these in a metallic silver, so they match this gray pretty good too. But I kind of like the clear because it goes with pretty much anything you're going to put them on. So I ordered quite a few of those. But there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, Mike with Wilderness Warriors and Woodsman's Gear on YouTube, and this is a 2-layer down underquilt DIY project that I'm putting up for sale for around $90. There you go. Thanks for watching.